This training will cover Chapter 5, Attendance and Meal Count Records, and is presented by the Oregon Department of Education Child Nutrition Programs, also known as ODE-CNP. This training is intended to be used for site staff, such as teachers or classroom aides, and provides an overview of information that is relevant to those positions. Please see the separate Chapter 5 attendance records and Chapter 5 meal count records trainings for more in-depth information and guidance on written procedures. In this training, we will review both the daily attendance record and meal count record forms, including documentation requirements for both. We will also go over point-of-service meal counts and the correct way to take meal counts. We'll touch on meals served to adults, and we'll end with a recap of non-reimbursable meals and unacceptable methods of meal counting. By the end of this training, you will understand the attendance record and meal count record requirements for CACFP. You will also know how to take and document an acceptable point-of-service meal count, and you will be able to recognize non-reimbursable meals. Before we get started on this training, let's go over some common terms and acronyms that you may see in this training. Often ODE-CNP has terms that are different from what center staff use, so we will define them here. CACFP. This is the acronym for the Child and Adult Care Food Program. This is sometimes referred to as the USDA Food Program or just the Food Program. Center. A center can be a child care center, an at-risk after-school center, an adult daycare center, or emergency shelter. This is where care is provided and the CACFP is operated. Disallow meals. This is the action of removing meals from the total meal count. If a meal is not reimbursable for whatever reason, it must be disallowed and not claimed. Infant. For CACFP, an infant is defined as a child that is younger than 12 months. Participant. Any individual who is enrolled for care at the center. This word is often interchanged with children or student. Site. A care center where meals are served. This is just another term for a center. Sponsor. An organization approved to operate the CACFP. First, let's go over the daily attendance record requirement, the purpose of the record, and the process of taking attendance. CACFP attendance records document the number of children in care and support the meal count claim for reimbursement. This documentation is required by federal regulation. Without accurate attendance records, meals may not be claimed for reimbursement. Attendance is taken as children or participants arrive at and depart from the center. The location within the center the attendance is taken can vary from site to site and is up to the sponsor to determine their internal process. Many centers take attendance in the classroom, but other common areas would be the cafeteria for at-risk after-school programs or at the front entry area of a child care center. Sponsors can use paper documentation or can use an electronic system as long as all the requirements are met. Attendance must be kept current at all times, signing in and out as the participants arrive and depart. Sponsors, and site staff specifically, should have a system in place for double-checking that in and out times are documented throughout the day. If it's discovered that times were not logged, they should be written down as soon as possible. So what information needs to be included on the attendance records? Attendance record requirements do vary slightly based on what type of program is operated. For a detailed table of all attendance record requirements, sponsors should refer to the CACFP Center Manual, Chapter 5, which is located on the ODE CNP public website. All attendance records must include the child or participant's first and last name, must be dated with the day, month, and year, must document the arrival and departure times if required. These times can be recorded by the parent or guardian or by site staff, depending on the center's procedure. Now, if the child arrives and departs more than one time in a day, then all in and out times must be recorded. Certain license-exempt centers that have set program or school days may use the present or absent method rather than documenting in and out times. In this case, staff would indicate a child was present by placing an X, for example, next to their name on the attendance log. Examples of programs that could use the present or absent method would be an at-risk after-school program that operates 3 to 5 p.m. daily, or a Head Start center with a set school day of 8 to 12 p.m. daily. In these cases, children arrive and depart daily at the same time, so the present-absent method could be used. A system must be in place to document actual in and out times for any child that arrives or departs outside of that normal school day. Let's do a knowledge check. ABC Childcare takes attendance in the classroom. Since the teacher knows all children by name, they only use the first name to track attendance. Additionally, most children attend the same hours each day, so attendance is marked with an X to indicate when a child is present. This meets the attendance requirements. True or false? The correct answer is false. Attendance must include the participants' first and last names for all program types. Additionally, for child care centers, specific arrival and departure times are required. This program type is not eligible to use the present-absent method. Now let's move on to point-of-service meal counts, or meal counts for short. Meal count records document the number of CACFP meals served and are what the CACFP reimbursement claim is based on. These are also required by federal regulation. Meal counts that do not contain the required information cannot be claimed for reimbursement. Meal count record documentation must be accurate and legible, include the day, month, and year date, and clearly indicate which meal was served. Meal counts can be taken by the actual count or head count method. Actual count is by participant name and must include the first and last name. Head count is the total number of participants served, often using a clicker or a tally mark. The type of meal count method is generally up to the sponsor, though there are some specific scenarios which require actual count to be used. For more information on this topic area, please refer to the CACFP Center Manual, Chapter 5. All right, let's talk about how to correctly take a point-of-service meal count. All meal counts must be taken and recorded at what we call the point of service. Point of service is defined as the point in time when the participant has received a complete reimbursable meal. There are 3 different types of meal service styles that sponsors may use, and each one of them has a specific point in time when the meal count must be taken. For cafeteria style service, this means when they're in the cafeteria line with their complete meal in hand. And for restaurant or family style, this means when the participant is seated at the table with a complete meal set on the table in front of them. For more information about the meal service styles, refer to the CACFP Center Manual, Chapter 10, Meal Service and Menu Records, or the related trainings. The meal count must be taken when the participant has the complete reimbursable meal, but before the participant leaves the line or the table. In both family and restaurant-style services, if a participant comes to the table with the intent to eat and they are served a complete meal, their meal may be included in the meal count, even if they only eat a small portion or don't eat at all. Site staff should encourage children to eat, but a child must never be forced to eat the meal. Meal counts cannot be taken after participants leave the line or the table. Any meals not documented during the point of service must be disallowed and not included in the total meal counts for reimbursement. What about meals served to adults? Depending on your organization, teachers and other staff may be served meals as well. For example, when sites use family-style meal service, the teacher sits and often eats with the children. Or it might be the center's policy that staff are allowed to have a meal while on their lunch break. Many organizations do not serve meals to staff. There's no right or wrong here, but it is important to know what your organization's policy is, because while adults consuming CACFP meals is an allowable practice, it does require additional tracking. Only meals that are served to enrolled participants can be included in the meal counts and are eligible for reimbursement, but all meals served must be documented. Centers that serve any adult meals must have a system to document the number of meals served separately from the point of service meal count. One way to do this is to include a section for adult meals on the daily meal count form. Sponsors could also have a separate form that tracks only adult meals. Let's take a look at an example of a daily meal count form using the actual count method. This example is an ODE CNP template that is available for sponsor use. Your organization may use this form, or they may create a similar one of their own. Whatever form is used for actual count, it must include a space for writing in the full date and name of the site or classroom, a section to list the children or participants' full names, and a place to indicate the actual meal served. This template also includes the following features that are helpful for the staff person who consolidates all meal count records for the month. A place to enter the total meals served to participants for each day, as well as a place to total all meals served for the week. It's important to note that these forms must be completed in full and must be accurate and legible. If meal count forms are not complete, meals may not be claimed for reimbursement. Next, we have an example of the daily meal count form for head count method. Again, this is the ODE CNP template, but sponsors may create their own form for head count, which would look similar to this. Head count forms must include a space for writing in the date and the site or classroom name, as well as a place to indicate the number of the actual meals served. This particular form is intended to be used for the entire month. This form works best with the use of a clicker to count the meals. Staff uses a clicker to capture the point of service meal count and then transfer that number from the clicker to the form after the meal service. Meal counts are entered under the participant column for the meal and day served. This template also includes a space for total meal counts for the month. Lastly, this template does include a space for documenting the meals served to adults. If meals are served to adults, the total number would be written on the staff column for the meal and day. Staff meals are not included in the total meal counts. Meals served to infants are documented differently than participants ages 1 and up due to their unique developmental and nutritional needs. All infant meal counts are documented on a daily infant menu record. This form documents what the infant was served as well as the actual meal count. Sponsors are required to use the ODE CNP Daily Infant Menu Record unless sponsors have received alternate approval by ODE CNP. There are two different infant forms, one for 0 to 5 months and one for 6 to 11 months. A portion of both forms are shown here on the slide. In order to count meals served to infants, the form must be completed in full, including the date of the menu or meal count, infant's full name, date of birth, and name of formula if applicable, and actual food items offered or served to infant, including breast milk or formula, and any additional food items. This is a high-level overview of the meal count form for infants. Please refer to the CACFP Center Manual, Chapter 11 for infants, or related trainings for more information on feeding and documenting infant meals. Now let's go over a summary of meal count methods that are not acceptable. As a reminder, meals may only be counted and claimed for reimbursement if documented during the point of service. These methods are not acceptable for determining meal counts. Using the number of participants on the attendance record to document meal counts. Counting the number of meals prepared or sent by the kitchen or sent by the vendor. Documenting meals after the meal service is complete based on teacher's memory. And counting the number of trays or plates on which the food was served. Additionally, here's a brief list of meals that cannot be included in the meal count or claimed for reimbursement. Meals that do not meet the meal pattern requirements without a medical statement, meals served to adults, unless adults are participants at an adults daycare center, meals served outside of the approved mealtime, meals that were not documented during the point of service, and meals that were served to participants whose attendance was not documented. Let's do another knowledge check. ABC Child Care Center uses the restaurant-style meal service. The teacher serves all children in her classroom at breakfast time. Typically, she records the meal counts while the children are eating. However, today she got busy and she forgot. At snack time, she discovered that she had forgotten to document the counts for breakfast. What action should she take? Should she A, document the number of meals that were served for breakfast based on memory, B, refer to the attendance record and document the meals based on how many children were there during breakfast time, or C, indicate on the meal count record that counts were not taken and do not claim any meals? The correct answer is C, indicate on the meal count record that counts were not taken and do not claim any meals. Some might assume that because the teacher was in the classroom and served all children who were there, it would be okay to document that number and claim the meals. However, CACFP regulations state that only meals documented at the point of service may be claimed. Staff must understand the importance of taking meal counts during the meal service and what action to take if this doesn't happen. We've reviewed a lot in this training. To recap, we have talked about daily attendance records and requirements for documentation, meal count records and what they must include, point of service meal counts and how they are taken, meals served to adults, and we ended with a summary of unacceptable meal count methods and non-reimbursable meals. As a reminder, this training was intended to be a high-level training for site staff. For more information or more in-depth training, please refer to the CACFP Center Manual or the CACFP training page. ODE supports equity and excellence for every learner. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. Thank you for taking this training.